Mega Man 11 is a criminally underplayed game, and a criminally hard one at that. In my opinion, it has some of the tightest level design in a 2D platformer, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite level, Tundra Man. Now I know what you're thinking. Your favorite level in the game is the ice level? With wind physics? What kind of sadistic bastard are you? And okay, that is a fair point. But let me tell you why. However, in order to get to the good stuff, we need a quick briefing of everything in the level. Alright, let's start from the top. The first room is an intro to many unique things about this level, namely the ice physics, and the two unique enemies in this level, the snowflakes and the birds. Then, in the second room, we get to see some enemies that we have already seen in other levels, such as these blue ones that I'm gonna call eggs, and those white ones that I'm gonna call skulls. In room 3, there is some platforming with ice physics, but if you're one smart cookie, you can skip all of that with using Rush. After that, we have more platforming with a tight jump using a siren, and then we have an introduction to a new enemy type, some snow bunnies. Now it's time for an intriguing room. First we see the snowflakes again, and then the wind starts. When the wind starts, it starts blowing the snowflakes and their movement pattern changes. This room also has some bonus platforming for a chance to get a 1-up. The next room also has a bonus platforming segment, assuming you're not terrible at the game, like I am. After that, there is a really tense combat room that I can never seem to get out of unscathed, and then we have a platforming and combat room, which again can be outsmarted with Rush. Alrighty, let's pick up the pace a little bit. Bunnies, wind and ice platforming, a relax room, small combat, a mini-boss, which is heavily platforming based, then another relax room, some wind, ice, and birds, as I like to call them the Holy Trinity, and now we are at a room that is built up to throughout this entire level. You see, in the first room, we got to see the first pattern of the snowflakes, that being just falling down, and then we got to see them going to the side following the wind, and now we get to see that alternating because the wind is going on and off. Now let's speed back up. The next room is easy if you slide, then we have some precise platforming on ice, a balancing act with sirens and skulls, then we have a tall platforming room, and some siren platforming after that. And the last room encompasses everything that is great about this level. We start off taking care of one bunny, and then it's on to the big platforming thing with a bunch of ice and wind and optional collectibles for you to pick up so that you're prepared for the boss fight against Tundra Man. Fun fact, Tundra Man's boss fight is completely memorizable. The patterns are always the same, even if they are very convoluted. So yes, you could, in theory, memorize all of Tundra Man's moves and get it right every single time, and not to brag, but I beat this boss fight on the first try, with no power-ups or anything, so you know. Anyways, my astonishing prowess aside, if you beat Tundra Man, you will get what is by far the most overpowered weapon in the game, Tundra Storm. Normally, it just clears one little pillar above you, but with the power gear, it turns into a complete screen wipe. Well, there is Tundra Man's stage explained as quickly as I care to do. Now it's time to explain the big question: why do I like this level more than any of the other levels in Mega Man 11? We have talked about why the individual rooms are good in their own right, but what about the big picture? Let's get some obvious things out of the way first: visuals. The setting of what appears to be a museum is really nice, even if there are 0 people visiting it. Probably because everything there wants to kill you. That might be bad for business. Also, something that happens in almost every level but really stands out in Tundra Man's stage is the use of light colors in the beginning of the level and darker ones at the end. This gives a feeling of progression that pairs with the level getting harder as it goes along. Also, the last room looks great. The ice has a great texture and color that serves to send us off. A great way to make the climax of the level feel like a climax is stepping up the visuals, after all. But those are only surface things that have nothing to do with the gameplay itself. If we're gonna figure out the backbone of this level, then we need to look at every mechanic Tundra Man uses to find what they all have in common. To clarify, the only 4 unique mechanics are the snowflakes, birds, ice, and wind. Well, first of all, the level focuses more on raw platforming than any other stage. The enemies are less combat mechanics and more platforming ones. They do not pursue the player, they are either floating around or dropping things from above. The snowflakes force the player to avoid them, not fight them. They're going to be destroyed when they touch the ground anyways. The birds are a similar story. You don't fight them, you avoid the ice ball that they drop on your head. So maybe I love this level because it feels more like a classic platformer? Well, while I think that's true, it still feels like one piece in a bigger puzzle. Let's keep digging into this frostbitten ground and see what we can uncover. Of the 4 main mechanics explored in this level, 2 of them seem to have a lot of chemistry and are used together a lot. Those 2 of course being the snowflakes and the wind. The snowflakes are the first thing we see, and because of that, we get very used to their movement pattern. As the player suspects, they will be seeing a lot of them throughout the level. The next time we see them is when the wind first gets added to the level. The flakes start in the familiar pattern, but when the wind starts up, they move with it, forcing the player to adapt on their feet. The third time we see the flakes is again with the wind. The wind goes on and off, so the flakes are falling 1 minute and barreling at you at the next. These 3 rooms are a natural progression of each other, and I think this highlights the theme. Let me explain. Every level is obviously made up of different mechanics. Some are unique to the stage, some are found in other levels. However, what they all have in common is that they all fit in with the gameplay theme of a level. The theme of the level will almost never be recognized by the player, but will subconsciously. It's what gives every level its own feeling. Why does Tundra Man's stage feel fundamentally different from Impact Man's level? Because the different enemies and different mechanics are contributing to a different theme. In our case, I believe the theme of Tundra Man's level is patterns. We already looked at how the snowflakes' movement patterns literally changed with the wind. Also, wind and ice physics make the player master a different pattern of movement than what they're used to. The birds also fit in with the theme of patterns. The falling ice blocks always fall down first, then split into 2 and fly off to the sides. All 4 of our main mechanics tie back into our theme of patterns. Oh yeah, and remember what I said about Tundra Man's boss fight being completely memorizable, if not convoluted? That's right. He follows a pattern. The same pattern. Every single time. After all, a good boss fight is supposed to echo the best parts of a level, so I would say that this was the right way to go. Hold on just a minute. Look at the different rooms of the level in order. Combat room, platforming room, platforming room. Combat, platforming, platforming, combat, platforming, platforming. It's a pattern. Oh my god, the level design literally creeped into the structure of the level design. Damn, this is a good game. Well, there you have it. We found out the reason behind my love of Tundra Man. All of the enemies fit in with the mechanics of the level perfectly, and they all contribute to the theme of patterns. Not only do they do this by having patterns themselves, but also by making up the patterns of the level itself. And that is why I love this one little level so much. Actually, maybe it's because blue is my favorite color. Yeah, on second thought, that's probably it. Hey, if you liked the video, go down and hit the whatever button. And if you didn't like it, then don't. It's really that simple.